Only 3 people in that gym knew who Bruce Lee was. The bodybuilder laughing across the room didn't. The men spotting him didn't. The 40 spectators gathered around the posing platform didn't. To them, the small Chinese man leaning quietly against the squat rack looked like just another visitor, someone passing through. Someone who definitely did not belong in a room full of giants. Across the gym floor stood Donnie the Iron Mountain Keller. 6'4", 350 pounds. A competitive bodybuilder known across California's strength scene. Arms thicker than most men's legs. Chest like stacked armor plates. A man who spent 20 years building mass and breaking the confidence of anyone who doubted him. And at that moment, he was laughing. Loud. The kind of laugh that fills a room and makes people join in even when they don't know why. Because someone had just pointed at the small man near the rack and said something stupid. "Hey, Donnie, that guy says he's a martial artist." More laughter. Donnie turned, looked Bruce Lee up and down. 5'7", maybe 140 pounds. No bulk, no massive arms, no intimidating size. Just lean muscle and quiet eyes. Donnie smirked. Then he said the sentence that would follow him for the rest of his life. "You?" He pointed at Bruce's chest. "You couldn't hurt me if you tried." The crowd roared. Donnie flexed, biceps swelling, veins rising like cables under his skin. "Look at this body," he said, turning to the room. 350 pounds of muscle. You're too small." More laughter. Bruce didn't move, didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He just watched. Quiet, studying. And then he asked one simple question. Soft voice, almost polite. "May I show you something?" What happened next is the story nobody in that room ever forgot. Los Angeles, California. June 17, 1967. Ironworks Gym. 6:12 p.m. The evening rush had just begun. Metal plates clanged against steel racks. The smell of chalk and sweat filled the air. Fans hummed overhead, barely cutting through the heat of dozens of bodies training at once. Ironworks wasn't a polished fitness club. It was a hardcore strength gym. The kind where powerlifters chalk their backs before squats. Where bodybuilders grunt through forced reps. Where size earns respect. And nobody in that building commanded more respect than Donnie Keller. They called him the Iron Mountain. Because that's what he looked like. A wall of muscle, 6'4", 350 pounds in contest season. Even heavier in the off-season. Donnie had started lifting at 17. A skinny kid from Bakersfield. Bullied. Overlooked. Invisible. He swore that would never happen again. 20 years later, no one overlooked him. He had won multiple regional bodybuilding titles, bench pressed over 600 pounds, squatted numbers that made powerlifters stare. People came to Ironworks just to see him train, to watch the spectacle. Because when Donnie lifted, the entire room stopped, and that evening he was in a particularly good mood. He had just finished a brutal chest session. 7 sets on incline, 5 on flat bench. Drop sets until his arms shook. Now he stood near the posing mirrors, sweat shining across his chest, laughing with friends. And that's when someone noticed the small man near the rack. Bruce had come to the gym with a friend, just observing, studying. Bruce Lee studied everything: movement, strength, speed, human mechanics. He loved watching athletes train, because every physical discipline revealed something about the body. But to the men inside Ironworks, he looked like a stranger. A small man in a room built for giants. And Donnie Keller noticed. Donnie Keller wiped sweat from his forehead with a white gym towel. Then he nodded toward Bruce. "Who's the new guy?" One of the lifters shrugged. "Don't know. Some martial arts guy, I think." That got Donnie's attention. Martial arts? He turned his full body toward Bruce. And when a 350-pound bodybuilder turns to face you, the room feels it. Even the conversations nearby slowed. Bruce stood near the squat rack, relaxed posture, hands loose at his sides, watching, observing. Donnie walked over, each step heavy. The rubber gym floor creaked slightly under his weight. A few lifters followed, not because they expected anything, just because when Donnie Keller moved, people watched. He stopped 3 feet from Bruce, towering over him. The size difference was ridiculous. Donnie looked down. Bruce looked up. Calm. Still. "You do martial arts?" Bruce nodded slightly. "I practice." Donnie laughed again. "Practice what? Dancing?" The lifters behind him chuckled. Someone leaned against a cable machine to watch. Bruce didn't react, didn't defend himself, didn't correct him. Donnie folded his massive arms across his chest. "You know what I don't get?" He gestured toward Bruce's frame. "You guys always talk about fighting, but look at you." He flexed one arm. The bicep ballooned. A mountain under skin. "You weigh what, 140? Bruce answered simply. "About that." Donnie smirked. "I could sit on you and end the fight." More laughter. Someone whistled. The energy in the gym shifted, because now this wasn't just conversation, this was entertainment. The classic gym spectacle, strength versus skill, size versus technique. And the crowd already believed they knew the result. Donnie stepped closer. Close enough that Bruce could feel the heat from his body. "You really think you could hurt someone like me?" Bruce looked at him carefully. Not with anger. Not with pride. With curiosity. Like a scientist studying an experiment. Donnie tapped his own chest, hard. The sound was like hitting a wooden board. "Go ahead." He spread his arms. "Hit me." Bruce didn't move. The room got quieter. Donnie grinned wider. "What's wrong? Afraid you'll break your hand?" A few people laughed again. Bruce spoke calmly. "I'm not here to fight." Donnie shrugged. "Then prove your martial arts work." He leaned closer, voice louder now. Public, performing. "You can't hurt me." The words echoed across the gym floor. A few lifters stopped mid-set. Now everyone was watching. Donnie lifted both arms again. Flexing, muscles swelling under the fluorescent lights. 350 pounds. He slapped his chest again. "You're too small." Bruce remained quiet for a moment, just breathing, thinking. Then he said something that confused everyone in the room. "May I show you something?" Donnie blinked. "What?" Bruce repeated. "May I show you something?" Not aggressive, not defensive, just calm. The crowd leaned in. Donnie laughed again. "Sure." He stepped back half a step, spread his arms. "Show me." The lifters formed a loose circle. No one announced it. But suddenly the gym had a stage. Weights sat forgotten on barbells. Machines hung idle. Even the front desk worker leaned around the counter to see. Donnie planted his feet. Massive legs like tree trunks. Bruce stepped forward. Slow. Measured. He stopped about 2 feet away. Looked up at Donnie's chest. Then at his stomach. Then his ribs. Studying. Donnie smirked. "You gonna poke me?" Bruce shook his head slightly. "No." He raised his hand. Not clenched. Open. Loose. Relaxed. The crowd watched, expecting something dramatic. A kick. A strike. Some flashy martial arts move. But Bruce just stood there. Still. Then he said quietly, "Take a deep breath." Donnie laughed again. "What?" "Take a deep breath." "Why?" "So you can feel it." That line made the room quiet again. Donnie shrugged. "Fine." He inhaled deeply, chest expanding, ribcage widening under thick muscle. Bruce's eyes focused. Center line. Precision. economy, no wasted movement. And then Bruce moved, not fast like a movie punch, fast like something you almost miss. A short step, a tiny rotation of the hips. His hand shot forward, not a wide swing, not a big punch, a 1-inch strike. His knuckles landed just below the sternum, solar plexus, a nerve cluster, a breath switch inside the human body. The impact made a sound, not loud, just a dull thud. Then Bruce stepped back. Immediately, like nothing happened. For 1 second, Donnie stood there, still smiling. Then the smile disappeared. His eyes widened. The breath he had just taken would not come back out. His chest locked, air trapped. His massive body froze. The room went silent. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Then Donnie bent forward suddenly. A violent gasp ripped out of him. But no air came. His lungs tried to inhale. Nothing. His hands dropped to his stomach. 350 pounds of muscle. Trying to breathe, and failing. Donnie Keller staggered backward. 1 step. Then another. 350 pounds of muscle suddenly moving like a man who had forgotten how to stand. His hands clutched his stomach. Eyes wide, mouth open. But no air came. The gym watched in stunned silence. This was the same man who had just been laughing, flexing, boasting. Now he was bent forward, gasping, trying to force air back into lungs that refused to respond. 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Then finally, a sharp, desperate inhale. The sound ripped through the quiet gym like someone surfacing after being underwater too long. Donnie sucked in air. Then another, and another. His massive chest heaved. The room remained completely silent, because nobody understood what they had just seen. Bruce stood 2 steps away. Hands relaxed, calm again, like the moment had already ended for him. But for Donnie, it was still happening. His body slowly straightened, breathing heavy. His heart pounding hard enough to see in his neck. He looked down at his own chest, then at Bruce. Confusion, shock, a flicker of fear. What was that? His voice was different now, quieter. The laughter gone. Bruce answered simply, timing. A few men in the circle exchanged looks. Donnie wiped sweat from his face again. But this time the sweat wasn't from lifting. You barely touched me. Bruce nodded. That was enough. Donnie shook his head slowly. No. He tapped his chest again, still trying to understand. That felt like my lungs shut off. Bruce nodded again. They did. The bodybuilders around them leaned closer. Now the gym had shifted from amusement to curiosity. Bruce pointed gently toward the center of Donnie's chest, the solar plexus. A few lifters recognized the term. Boxers knew it, but they had never seen someone strike it like that. Bruce continued, inside your body, there are places where structure matters more than muscle. He tapped his own chest lightly. You build strength. He nodded respectfully toward Donnie. A lot of it. Donnie exhaled slowly, still regaining rhythm in his breathing. Bruce continued. But strength doesn't protect the nervous system. The circle grew tighter. Bruce stepped slightly closer again, but not threatening. Teaching. Your body is powerful, he said. But the breath. He pointed to the solar plexus again. Controls everything. Donnie listened. Actually listened, thou. Bruce explained calmly. When struck correctly, your diaphragm spasms. Your lungs cannot expand. For a moment, he paused. You cannot breathe. The room stayed silent. Bruce wasn't bragging, wasn't dramatic, just explaining physics. Human mechanics. Donnie tested his breathing again. Deep inhale. Slow exhale. His body had recovered. But the lesson had landed. He looked at Bruce again, longer this time, not seeing a small man anymore, seeing something else. Precision, control, knowledge. You could have hit harder. Bruce shrugged slightly. That wasn't necessary. Donnie nodded slowly. Processing. Then he asked something unexpected. You knew that would happen? Bruce smiled faintly. I knew it might. The room chuckled softly, not mocking, just releasing tension. Donnie looked around at the watching lifters, then back at Bruce. You're telling me? He gestured at his massive body. All this doesn't matter. Bruce shook his head. Oh, it matters. He looked at Donnie respectfully. Strength is valuable, but strength without understanding. He paused, is incomplete. Donnie folded his arms again. But this time it wasn't arrogance, it was thought. He studied Bruce. You didn't try to embarrass me. Bruce shook his head. No! Donnie nodded once. Then something changed. Something the crowd hadn't expected. The giant extended his hand. I'm Donnie Keller. Bruce shook it. Bruce Lee. Donnie took a breath again, testing his lungs. Then he said quietly, I was wrong. The room reacted instantly, not loudly. But the weight of those words carried through the gym. Because Donnie Keller never admitted that. Not publicly. Not easily. But he continued. I thought size meant everything. Bruce smiled. Many people do. Donnie asked another question. Direct. Honest. How do you learn that? Bruce tilted his head slightly. Learn what? That. Donnie gestured toward his chest again. The thing you just did. Bruce considered the question, then answered, You study movement. You study structure. You study the body. Then he added the line that would stay with Donnie for years. Muscle is power, but knowledge decides where power goes. The lifters around them nodded slowly, because that sentence made sense, even in a gym built on strength. Bruce continued. In martial arts, he lifted his hand, relaxed again. We call it economy of motion. No wasted energy. No unnecessary force. Just the right movement, at the right moment. Donnie listened carefully, then asked one final question. Can you teach that? Bruce paused, studied the giant again. Not the muscles, the attitude, the humility. Then he nodded slightly. If you're willing to learn. Donnie smiled, a different smile this time. Not arrogance, respect. I am. The circle slowly broke apart. Weights were lifted again. Machines started moving again. But the energy in Ironworks gym had changed because 40 witnesses had just seen something that didn't make sense. 350 pounds of muscle stopped by one small strike. Not strength. Not size. Precision. Knowledge. Understanding. Bruce picked up his bag, nodded once to Donnie, then headed toward the door. Quiet again, the way he had entered. Behind him, Donnie Keller stood near the mirror, looking at his reflection. The same body, the same body, the same power. But now he saw something different. Not invincibility. Possibility. Years later, Donnie would still tell that story. Not about the pain, but about the moment his certainty broke, the moment he realized something important, that the most dangerous opponent is the one you underestimate. 40 witnesses, 3 who knew, 1 who laughed, 1 who learned, and 1 who taught. The night strength met understanding. For several seconds after Bruce Lee walked toward the door, no one in Ironworks gym moved. The clang of weights had stopped. The hum of the ceiling fans sounded louder now, because 40 grown men were replaying the same moment in their heads. That tiny movement, that short strike, that impossible result. One of the lifters finally broke the silence. "Did you see that?" Another shook his head slowly. He barely moved. A power lifter near the squat rack added quietly, "It wasn't power, it was placement." Donnie Keller was still standing near the mirrors, breathing steady again, but thinking harder than he had in years. He had built his entire life around one belief. Bigger meant stronger. Stronger meant unbeatable. For 20 years, that belief had been true, until 4 seconds ago. He pressed his fingers lightly against the spot Bruce had struck. Solar plexus. He understood now. All the muscle in the world couldn't protect a nerve center. Strength had limits. Knowledge didn't. Across the room, one of the younger lifters asked, "What kind of punch was that?" Another man answered, "I don't know, but it shut down a 350-pound man." The room slowly returned to life. Weights lifted again. Machines started moving. But conversations had changed. People weren't talking about bench presses anymore. They were talking about precision, about timing, about the small man who walked in quietly and left the strongest man in the building unable to breathe. 2 weeks later, Saturday morning, 7:05 a.m., Junfan Gung Fu Institute, Los Angeles. The training room was simple. Wood floors, wall mirrors, a few wooden dummies, no weight racks, no giant machines, just space. Space to move. Bruce Lee was already there. Stretching, working through footwork drills, small steps, fast, precise. The door opened. Donnie Keller stepped inside. He looked even bigger in that small room, but his attitude was different now. No flexing, no loud voice, just curiosity. Bruce glanced up. "You came." Donnie nodded. "You said Saturday morning." Bruce smiled faintly. Most people never showed up. They liked the idea of learning, but they didn't like starting over. Donnie stepped onto the mat. "You're going to show me how you did that?" Bruce shook his head. "No." Donnie frowned slightly. "No?" Bruce continued calmly. "I'm going to show you why it worked." He walked toward the wooden dummy, tapped it lightly. "Power isn't just force." He turned back toward Donnie. "It's efficiency." He demonstrated a punch. Small, compact, the movement barely traveled 6 inches. But the wooden dummy rattled against the floor. Donnie's eyes widened. Bruce explained, "Most people think fighting is about hitting harder." He shook his head. "It's about wasting less motion." He stepped closer. When movement becomes smaller, he demonstrated again, speed becomes greater. Another strike. Sharp. Controlled. And when speed and precision combine, Bruce tapped the wooden dummy again. "You don't need size." Donnie nodded slowly, understanding something he had never considered. Bruce continued, "Your strength is real." He gestured respectfully toward Donnie's massive arms, but strength is just one tool. He stepped into stance, balanced, fluid. Martial arts teaches you where to apply that tool. Donnie asked quietly, "So you're saying muscle doesn't matter?" Bruce smiled. "It matters." Then he added the line Donnie would repeat for the rest of his life. "But knowledge decides where muscle goes." Training started slowly. Footwork first. Balance. Timing. Donnie struggled. Not with strength. With control. Years of lifting had built power, but Bruce was teaching efficiency. Less motion. Less tension. More awareness. For the first time in 20 years, Donnie Keller was a beginner again, and he loved it. Years later, Donnie would still tell the story. Not about humiliation. Not about pain. But about the moment everything changed. The moment he realized something important. Strength is impressive. Size is intimidating. But understanding is unstoppable, because the deadliest opponent in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove anything. 40 witnesses, 3 who knew, 1 who laughed, 1 who learned, and 1 who taught. The day's strength met precision, and arrogance learned to breathe.